and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It's getting late on a Sunday night, so it's about time to kick off another work week. Hopefully, everybody's had a good, wonderful, busy weekend, just like I have today here on the channel. My main topic is going to be wrestling. If you hop on here live, feel free to leave a comment down below while you're here. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And like the video, give the video a thumbs up, and share the video on all social media platforms. But before I talk wrestling, let me give some quick thoughts on the Ole Miss LSU game from last night. Hey, Marcus, I'm great, man. In my opinion, it's always a good day as long as you're above ground, and it's always a good day to have a great day. Glad you've tuned in. We're going to talk some wrestling here in a couple of minutes, but I wanted to give some quick thoughts on Ole Miss and LSU. I didn't in my video last night because there was so many good primetime games on last night. Plus, we had the AEW pay-per-view last night. So I wasn't sure how many people would actually watch the game. Plus, the game was long. I know it went into overtime, but it actually surpassed the 4-hour mark in regulation because you just had an ugly football game from a turnover perspective, from a incomplete pass perspective, from a penalty perspective, from a replay perspective. It just felt like that game never could get into any kind of fluidity because every other play was either a review or a flag. Ugly football game. A lot of people don't have enough time or patience to sit down and watch a 4-hour football game. But it was a good game, not near the scoring that we saw in the LSU Ole Miss game from last year. But a lot of people that are, I'll say, college football gurus, that are insiders, have always said that, Lane Kiffin is a good coach, but he'll never be a great coach because when his teams are expected to perform, he doesn't perform. At Tennessee, he only lasted 1 year, and he left to go to USC. And, of course, at USC, you're expected to perform, right away. If USC's had 10 straight losing seasons and you become their coach, they're going to expect 12-0 your first season. So, of course, at USC, he was expected to do well. He didn't last long. Well, after a few years, either taking off or being an assistant coach somewhere or a coordinator, he finally got a head coaching job again at Florida Atlantic. And at Florida Atlantic, there's never any pressure. You can go 12-0 there, and you're not going to be in the top 5. You're not going to be in the top 10. You're not going to make the playoffs, and you're not going to win a national championship. So 12-0 at Florida Atlantic means nothing. So there's never pressure there. Well, then he goes to Ole Miss, and you can see Ole Miss, talent-wise, every year they get a little better. And they get a little better in the polls, but it was still, most years you're going to lose to Alabama. You're going to lose to LSU. Depending on who you play from the SEC East, you're going to lose that game. So you were still looking at, 9-3, 8-4 at the best every year. Hey, ASMR guy, glad you're here. But this year was the first year where a lot of people had Ole Miss as a playoff team, including me. I did. And a lot of people thought they had an outside shot of winning a national championship because, Lane Kiffin is a offensive guru, an offensive genius, and they were top 10 in America last year in offense, and they brought back the same head coach, the same quarterback, all the same receivers. So you think, man, they're going to be really good, and they're not. So all the people who talked about Lane Kiffin not being able to win the big game and not being able to win the games he's not supposed to win. It's looking like they were right, because this year you look over their schedule and they don't play Alabama in the regular season. So you already thought, well, there's one less loss on their schedule, and here they are with 2 losses now in mid-October. So unless they get lucky somewhere along the way, they have no shot already of winning the conference. So they probably have no shot of going to the playoffs. And their season's about over, and it's mid-October, and they've got no excuse, because they got the same coach, the same quarterback, the same receivers that were so great last year, and they have regressed. So it's definitely been a disappointing season for Ole Miss this year, and the way they've played, I would say they've probably got one more loss on their schedule, because their offense isn't near as good as it should be with the talent that they have. But on to some wrestling. First of all, I want to say Friday night, I got to ref at SCA's Fighter Web, which took place at the Royston Dome in Royston, Georgia, on Cherry Street. There was 3 of us referees Friday night, me along with Slim and D. Byers. I got to ref the Friday night championship match, Kyle Phillips versus Chop Top, and I got to ref a tag team match with Stevie Ray Frost and Tyler Veach versus Dynamic Dexter and Cliffhanger Chris. And Dynamic Dexter and Cliffhanger Chris got the win, but we saw a double turn in that match, because after the match, Dynamic Dexter, for the first time in his wrestling career, turned bad and turned on Cliffhanger Chris, and then we saw Stevie Ray Frost turn on Tyler Veach. So Tyler Veach becomes a good guy, and Dynamic Dexter becomes a bad guy in that tag team match. And then the Fighter Web match was something that you've never seen before unless you were there Friday night, and you'll never see it again unless you come next year to Fighter Web. But they had 2-minute intervals in that match, just like you would see in a Rumble match. There was 27 participants, but unlike a Rumble, in this match, you did not go over the top rope. You had 2 guys start, and then every 2 minutes, somebody else would come out. But just like a regular wrestling match, you had to either submit or get pinned or get counted out when it's just 2 guys. Then if nobody gets pinned or submitted or counted out after 2 minutes, the 3rd guy comes out. Then it becomes a triple threat match. So of course then there's no longer countouts, no longer DQs. It's triple threat rules, so it's 1 fall to the finish. So if there's 3 guys in the ring and 1 guy records a pin, the other 2 guys are eliminated, and then immediately the next wrestler comes out. If nobody gets eliminated after 2 minutes, another guy comes out, and it becomes a fatal 4-way. Then if there's a pin, all 3 guys in the ring are out, and immediately the next guy comes out. And you do that until every single person that's in the match comes out. And then after the very last guy comes to the ring, the next pinfall wins the match. 27 guys altogether. Tower walked in the SCA champion. He walked out the SCA champion. So Fighter Web was unlike a match you've ever seen before. And then last night, I was at 244 Livestock Road, East Denali, Georgia, for SWA, year number 19 of Fight Mayor. And I was the only ref last night, so I got to referee all 7 matches. So 2 matches Friday night and 7 matches last night, so a 9-match weekend. But the main event last night at SWA's Fight Mayor was a street fight with our tag team champions, Crystal Rose and Terrain, against Wraith and Jack Salem, who call themselves the Black Flag Syndicate. And Terrain and Crystal Rose are still the SWA Tag Team Champions. But this time, you don't have to wait until the second Saturday of next month to come out and catch us again. We're having a benefit show this upcoming Saturday for Jackie Owens, who owns SWA's brother, who spent a little over a week in the hospital. So we're having a benefit show to raise money for his health care bills and hospital bills and all that kind of good stuff. So come on out Saturday night to 244 Livestock Road, Easton Nolly, Georgia, for SWA Wrestling. As always, doors open at 6 o'clock. Bell time will be 7 o'clock. And also last night we had Wrestle Dream from AEW from the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington. We had 13 matches altogether, counting the 0 hour pre-show. On the pre-show, Brian Cage beat Atlantis Jr. to become the new Ring of Honor television champion. Anna Jay beat Harley Cameron, and the Acclaimed beat the M&M Connection. Those are our 3 matches from the 0 hour pre-show, which was an hour and a half last night, and then 10 matches on the main card. Of course, I'm only going to talk about the matches. There was some stuff that happened between matches and after the matches, but you can go read the full results to see all that. I'm just going to talk about the matches. We kicked off the main card with the Outrunners and the Conglomeration defeating the Premier Athletes and the Dark Order. Jay White beat Hangman Adam Page. Mariah May beat Willow Nightingale to retain the AEW Women's Championship. Jack Perry beat Katsuyori Shibata to retain the TNT Championship. Konosuke Takeshita beat Will Ospreay and Ricochet to become the new AEW International Champion. Hologram beat the Beast Mortis in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and of course they went all 3 falls. I don't know if I've ever seen a 2 out of 3 falls match that didn't go all 3. If I have, I don't recall, but I don't think I have. Darby Allin beats Brody King. The Young Bucks beat Private Party to retain the Tag Team Championships. Mark Briscoe beat Chris Jericho to retain the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship. And in the main event, Jon Moxley defeats Bryan Danielson to become the new AEW World Champion. They say that Bryan is now a free agent. He will no longer be a full-time wrestler, which I'm glad. I'm not glad to see Jon Moxley beat him. I was hoping that Bryan Danielson's last championship reign would be longer than what it was. But he has so many health issues because of concussions that I hope he's done wrestling before he ends up suffering some long-term effects, especially with having 2 small children at home. But I'm sure he'll wrestle again somewhere, sometime. But he is no longer a full-time wrestler. Any thoughts on any of this wrestling stuff or any of the college football games from yesterday? Please feel free to let me know. And of course, earlier today, the college football AP poll came out for this week. We'll talk about that coming up sometime later on this week. I also want to discuss some NFL this week. And of course, don't forget, we'll have another weekly top 10 countdown. The last couple of weeks has been about Halloween. I may continue down that path. May do something different. I'm not sure. But you'll find out coming up on Wednesday of this week. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Who is the father of corny jokes? popcorn. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.